multiply two complex numbers. The first one is 5 minus 2i times the second one, 5 plus 2i. Okay, so the thing to remember about multiplying complex numbers is that you need to distribute all the terms, so everything gets multiplied. So we're going to do first the FOIL method. Since we have two terms in the first parenthesis times two terms in the second, our method for distribution and multiplication is FOIL, first times first term, outer times outer term, inner times inner term, last times last term. Now I'm going to call this method A because I'll show you a shortcut with method B in a few moments. Okay, so method A, which we're going to start with, is multiply with FOIL. Okay, so that means that our question is equal to first term times first term. 5 times 5 is 25. And then next plus outer times outer would be 5 times 2i, that's a positive 10i. Then inner times inner is negative 2i times 5, so it's negative 10i. And then last times last, we have to be careful here. Last times last is negative 2i times positive 2i. So that's going to be a negative answer because it's a negative times a positive. So we have our negative sign. Then the 2 times the 2 is the 4. And then here's where a lot of people make a mistake. They forget that they have to multiply I times I when you do last times last. Well, I times I is not I. I times I is I squared. So don't forget the square whenever you multiply the two i's together. Okay, next step, we're going to bring the work down and we're going to cancel the two middle terms, positive 10i minus 10i, and that leaves us 25 minus 4i squared. Now let's replace I squared with what we know it's equal to. It's equal to the negative number, negative 1. So we've got 25 minus 4 times negative 1. But minus 4 times negative 1 is the same as a double negative. It's plus 4. So we actually have 25 plus 4. And that equals 29. And that's our final answer. The answer is a single real number, 29. Okay, method B involves close observation of the question. You'll notice these two values in parentheses are conjugates of one another. They differ only by the sign in the middle, so we can use the formula for conjugate multiplication. A plus B times A minus B equals the first dude squared minus the last dude squared. So for our question, the first dude is going to be 5, so we'll call this equal to 5 squared minus the last dude squared. Well, the last dude in our problem is 2i, so put that entire expression in parentheses and square it. For 5 squared, we get 25. Bring down the minus sign. 2i parentheses squared is 2 squared times I squared. So bring down 25 minus 2 squared is 4 times I squared. But what is I squared? It's negative 1. So this is 25 minus 4 times negative 1. Minus 4 times negative 1 is a positive 4, so we have 25 plus 4, which again gives us the same answer as before, 29. So you can use either of these methods and you'll get the same answer. So the key thing here is distribute the multiplication. Distribute the multiplication, and don't forget to change I squared to negative 1. Okay, so you tried this one. It's a little bit different. The first complex number is 2i times the second complex number, 1/2 minus I. Pause the video and work through this problem, distribute the multiplication, simplify, and then come back and restart the video and see if we agree. Okay, the solution to this problem is distributing multiplication by the first complex number 2i. We'll distribute it to the first term in the parenthesis, 1/2, and then the second term, minus I. So this will be equal to 2 times, I'll put the 1/2 next, and then times I at the back, and then bring down a minus sign because 2i times the last term I is negative 2 times I, which is I squared. Now you'll notice that the numerator in the first term 2 canceled with the denominator in the first term 2, and we have 1 times I as our first value, so we would write that as I, and then bring down the minus 2, and then replace I squared with negative 1. Well, negative 2 times negative 1 is a positive 2. So at this point, we have I plus 2. Now, I actually failed to take this one step further, and on an exam, I would lose a point or two, because you always are supposed to write your final complex number solution in standard form A plus BI. This is backwards. I plus 2 is not standard form. 2 plus I would be standard form. So minus 1 point for me, and let's move on.